It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast, talking your property news and real estate 7 days a week, as heard on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Amazon. Woohoo, we're into another Friday. Has it been a busy one where you are? September the 20th today, and I do note that experts are predicting that a series of interest rate cuts next year could trigger a nationwide property boom. That's according to the ASX's RBA target rate tracker. Financial markets, they say, are anticipating 4 rate cuts within the next 12 months, starting with a 25 basis points reduction in February and then 3 more by August. And this marks the first forecast of multiple cuts since rate hikes began all the way back to May of 2022. Seems like a long time ago. And the expected cuts are based on projected decreases, of course, in the US interest rates, which could boost the Australian dollar. And while this may offer relief to current homeowners, you guessed it, first home buyers may face increased competition and rising property prices. And on that note, we are off to Sydney this morning. Time to catch up with Margaret Lomas from Destiny Financial Solutions. And Margaret, you are back from tripping around, and I believe you've been to Thailand.
Yes, I have. It's normally this time of the year where I feel like I need to have just a little short break. And so we took off to Koh Samui, which is a lovely little island in Thailand. It's kind of like Bali was 50 years ago. And we just sat by the pool for 6 days and then came home again.
Yeah, it's nice just to sit by the pool and do nothing.
Indeed.
Doing nothing is actually regenerating the soul. You know, people go away on these holidays and they're so busy, they need a holiday to get over the holiday.
Well, that's the point, I think. And I had a holiday earlier in the year where I was very busy and came home from that feeling quite exhausted from that. Like, this is actually very good for your productivity when you get back. And I found that I was able to spring back into work really quickly. I needed that regeneration. I found that I was more creative, more productive, and everything about what I did was definitely worth going away. I guess you could say that the increased productivity definitely makes it well worth just taking that little bit of time out. Wherever it is you go, whether it's out of the country or within the country, I think people don't really focus on, their own well-being to the point where they realize the impact that poor well-being has on everything in their life.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Now, talking of well-being, we're talking about first-time home buyers. What do you make of this ASX's RBA target rate tracker saying that within the next 12 months, 25 basis points in Feb and then 3 more in August, and those likely to be hit here potentially are first-home buyers?
My first comment is that it's a little bit like when economists predict interest rate futures and 50% of them get it right and 50% of them get it wrong. And that translates into 50% of economists' predictions aren't correct and 50% are correct. So if you have a go often enough, you generally get it right. And I want to cast everybody's minds back to when the RBA governor told us that interest rates were going to be stable for the next 2 to 3 years, and everybody jumped in and overcommitted to loans. And then he was wrong. Interest rates went up very rapidly, 9, 10 times in quick succession. And we suddenly found a lot of people in mortgage stress. I think we have to be very careful about making purchase decisions based on any kind of interest rate projection that someone is going to make. We've been told to expect interest rate cuts for quite some time now. Last year, we were told to expect them early this year. Then it was pushed out to later. Then it was pushed out to later again. And I think it's a little bit of a risk deciding that now is the time to buy because we're going to cut rates. You should only ever be buying property based on what you know you can afford on today's rates, plus another 2 to 3% in the event that half of the people get it wrong again and you're going to face an interest rate rise instead of a cut.
Yeah, I think when you read just the fact that 4 cuts in the next 12 months, I mean, it just seems like night and day compared to where we are. And, yeah, I get to talk to the economists all the time here. They freely admit that, sometimes it is guesswork and that's all they've got to go on. But it's a volatile situation in terms of what is happening overseas. We have this election coming up in November. One shock globally, and that changes everything.
Yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? Many, many years ago, making predictions like this was a lot easier because we weren't such a connected global world. We're so connected now that when there is a share market crash one day, it's literally corrected by the next day or two. Whereas 50 years ago, a stock market crash would take a year to recover because we didn't have that connectivity that we have now. We also have, as you've said, an unpredictable world, and it only takes another war somewhere or an assassination of a potential presidential candidate in America, which may trigger a civil war, and so many other things. We're kind of at trigger point in many parts of the world, and parts of the world that have a direct impact back on the global economy. It's very difficult to make these predictions. I'm glad I didn't decide to become an economist when I was in school, because it's very difficult to make these predictions. And when they're being made, we have to understand they're being made on the basis of only known facts today, what we know is happening today and what we think might happen tomorrow. And we don't take into account unexpected things, as I said, like a war or anything that could be happening. We just don't know. And so we can't really accurately predict those interest rate futures, which is why I never like people to be buying property, especially based on what they're hearing in terms of a prediction for the future.
Yeah, in terms of Donald Trump having that second assassination attempt, that's pretty on the money, I think. If he was assassinated, there would be potentially a civil war. And, when you're talking a civil war in the United States, we don't know what that would do to the economy. The world economy would probably go backwards. All right, we are talking with Margaret Lomas this morning. We'll come back with more after this.
We help to break down real estate every day to help you better understand the Australian property market.
More and more Australians, it seems, are looking at this industry as a way of providing, firstly, I guess, a lifestyle, and then secondly, the income stream. Let's pick up on the point of why people are looking at this industry for investing in the first place.
It's seen as a very safe and robust industry. If you look at the value and the profitability of management rights businesses over a long period of time, they've shown steady growth and stability. They're very well supported by the banking sector. Indeed, during the GFC, management rights was the only sector where banks continue to lend 70% on them. They work very well from a point of view of leveraging your money. So we do find a lot of people coming from other walks of life, looking to become the masters of their own destiny, looking to purchase businesses.
You can join the conversation every week on the Real Estate Podcast.
And it is a Real Estate Friday. We are talking with Margaret Lomas. And I think, Margaret, we need to probably talk a little bit more positively. So let's get on to some of these areas for first home buyers. And you've got 3 that you would like to suggest. So if you are a first time buyer, listen up.
So these are all in different states of Australia. Of course, you have a national audience, and I think it's important that we never forget that. We're looking first of all in that Logan Shire of southeast Brisbane, which is almost or roughly halfway between Brisbane and the Gold Coast. But it's an easy commute either way via both public transport and really great freeways that they've built in southeast Queensland, great infrastructure there. So if you're in the Logan Shire, you're less than an hour either way back into the main city, if you even need to go there. And what we have in those areas is not only affordable housing, and when I say affordable, I mean in today's terms affordable, but we also have a lot of different opportunities to enter the market. So it might not necessarily be a house that you enter the market as a first-time buyer. It could be a unit or a townhouse, or a smaller option, a duplex. And in the Logan Shire, which is incredibly well resourced, I might add, so there's no need to really go out of the Logan Shire for anything, you can get properties from $400,000 for a unit and less even for a townhouse in some of the areas like Woodridge, where you can pick up a townhouse in the $300,000 mark, which will have 3 bedrooms and a bathroom and a car space as well. Or you can go into areas like Yarrabilba, which is a newer area, and it has housing available, 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, from around about $600,000, which in today's terms is within the reach of first home buyers. I like Logan Shire because over the years, demographically, we're seeing quite a change in people who live there. We're seeing a change in the socio-economic levels that we have there. Previously, it was an area with fairly high unemployment, not a lot of job opportunities available, but we've seen a big shift over the last 10 years toward many more employment opportunities and a different socio-economic class of people who are living there. So we're getting great areas that are very well resourced with a local council, the Logan Council, who has always been very, very committed to providing services for their residents.
Yes, we have covered the Logan Shire with all of those points that you make. It just seems to be an area that is being bought into by first home buyers. Now let's go on to your second spot, which is in the Adelaide region.
Absolutely, and it's in the northern suburbs, a relatively new northern expressway to get up into those more distant northern suburbs. Affordable housing from $400,000 up into the $600,000 for a freestanding house. For investors, it's great because there are good returns, but for first home buyers, again, another area with a very changing demographic of people and highly affordable housing, very well resourced for families.
All right, so that was your second suggestion. Your third one is in Melbourne somewhere.
Yes, my third one is in Melbourne, and it's out past Narrawarren, and it's on the road down towards Sale. And there are a couple of areas around there. For example, Churchill as one of them. On the other side of Pakenham fairly recently exploded with people and became quite unaffordable. But if you're willing to go a little bit further past there into the Latrobe Valley, then you'll find that you've got lots of housing available there, also around the $600,000 mark. Many suburbs around that area. Great train line back into Melbourne. A good, easy commute back into that Narrawarren area, which has grown amazingly and become quite resource rich for the families that are living in those areas.
All right, fantastic stuff there, Margaret. So those are your 3 suggestions for our first-time property buyers. All right, we'll leave it there. Enjoy your Friday and look forward to chatting soon.
Thank you.
Every morning from 6 a.m. across Australia, we deliver you the latest property news, commentary and predictions from Perth to Cairns and from Melbourne to Brisbane, 7 days a week, only on The Real Estate Podcast. We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.